So I'm hearing people are signing some big deals or got some offers for some big deals out there. Fighters going to end up signing with Zuffa. As I told you before, Zuffa wouldn't even begin to work without the American fighters lined up and willing to jump on the ship, you know. And with that being said, I'm going to speak to y'all about something. If you want to know my thoughts about that, and if you can pick up where I'm going, if you can pick up what I'm laying down, then you know, you vibing, you tribing. You know what I mean? I want to tell you about a clothing company I used to know and I used to wear, and I still got some clothes from this clothing company, and I still rock it to this day because overall I like what it represented. And you may remember a clothing line called LRG. Okay? Took off back in the day, was everywhere. You know, the interesting thing about this clothing line is it started from very humble beginnings, and it got to the top of the industry independently. You know, at the time, you know, they didn't even have Instagram and stuff like that, but yet they managed to climb to the top of the industry and get attention from some of the biggest rap artists and gave birth to what we know now as pretty much streetwear for the most part, you know, giving a type of elegance and, you know, a type of class, yet street, yet unique, you know, all that stuff. You know, I'm pretty sure you probably got a couple pieces yourself. And you know, what's interesting about this group is they was able to do what they did and tap in to people in the industry without receiving any leg ups, without receiving any help, without receiving any funding, without anybody, you know, stepping in and help push them along, blase splee. Basically, in a nutshell, no money provided to basically capitalize or jeopardize the independent growth of this company. And they made it to the top. You know, one of the biggest brands out there, right? Now, when you ask me about Zuffa, you have to understand some things. Like I said, some people don't know when they already winning, and some people don't understand the game and what people has to gain. If they're willing to pay you 15 million, 100 million, you know, for you to come over there and jump on their ship, the real question you got to ask yourself is why, and what do you stand to gain in the process? Because whatever you're trying to pay me, that means whatever you getting back is double and tenfold over and over again. So I wonder what it is that makes you want to pay me that much money. What are you going to get out of it? That's the main thing, because nobody's offering you that type of cash without having the kickback be 3 times, 4 times greater than what they're giving you. And sometimes what they buy is not always the money coming back. Sometimes it's something way bigger. Yeah, I mean? Now let's get back to this company, LRG.
Lifted Research Group clothing co-founder Jonas Bevacqua was found dead at his Laguna Beach, California home on Tuesday, May 31st, 2011. The popular designer was 34 years old when he apparently died in his sleep, according to insider accounts. There are no official details released yet on the cause of death. Founded by Bevacqua and his partner Robert Wright, LRG began as a clothing company in 1999, but has since branched out to include sales of electronic devices, music, and other items. The company maintains strong ties within the hip-hop community, with many prominent names having modeled their fashion in a series of ads. Famous athletes such as Kobe Bryant and Reggie Bush have also been seen sporting their clothes. Entrepreneur magazine ranked the company at number 5 on its 2007 Hot 500 list of fastest growing companies and pegged its 2006 sales figures at an estimated $150 million. Bevacqua's death is being investigated by the Orange County coroner. For more information on this topic, visit the link below. And for more stories from Mahalo News, visit any of the links above.
LRG standed for Lifted Research Group. I want you to think about that name. Lifted Research Group. For some streetwear, it's kind of an interesting name. I wonder what they meant by it. You know, I wonder what they meant. And this is an interesting time for you to observe logos. You know, and maybe you should look into what some of these logos mean and why so many logos are similar instead of being, you know, creative and different. Why are so many the same like that? It's one of the things you got to research. But the funny thing is, while I'm saying it's one of the things you got to research, and the name is Lifted Research Group, you know, the tree representation in ancient times represented pure divinity, godliness, the connection of realms, heaven, earth, and the underworld. Okay? You know, the circle in ancient times has always been a representation of divine creation, or what you would call the Lord, high spirituality, oneness, you know, pure source energy. Okay? It's standing for the elevation of consciousness. You know, this spiral that you see in ancient times was a representation of what you call God. You ever heard that God doesn't move in straight lines? You ever know why that is? Or why they say that? I don't know. Maybe some stuff that you could look into. So sometimes some things could be right in front of your face. And with this Lifted Research Group, I repeat that again, Research Lifted Group. Maybe that symbol and that sign and what they were doing represented something on a more divine level. Maybe. You know, maybe. Well, the interesting thing is the owner of this group was approached to get bought out. And it's interesting how you can no longer find this story anywhere. You know, but just like Whitney Houston, just like Prince, Kurt Cobain, he was found dead, alone, in his apartment or house. You know, pretty much like the rest of the people I just named. I'm bringing up something else. Isn't it interesting how these rappers make all this music, all their careers, right? And yet, at the end, they all end up doing the same thing. Selling their masters. Isn't that interesting? Dr. Dre, think Lil Wayne has done it or is fin to do it. They put all that work in to get bought out by their masters. $100 million here, $100 million here. Once again, if that's what they want to pay you, then what do they stand to gain? Then what do you think they're going to get back off of it? But yet, some of the biggest people all seem to do it. Isn't that interesting? They all do it. They all end up selling that master. Maybe sometimes, you know, when you create something that can be that people can benefit from or use, or be a catalyst to be weaponized in some type of way, maybe when they offer you that money, maybe that's the time that they're telling you to take this, or maybe you have another fate. You know? Kind of like tell you, well, if you don't take this money, then you might as well understand not accepting this money means you're going to be singing in the dirt. The point is, you can't truly own anything that's truly worth anything that can move the culture like LRG did and it not be controlled. It has to be controlled because of what it's tapped into. Kind of like how they tap into artists and actors because y'all follow them so much. So maybe they need to control them to the highest degree, because controlling them is controlling who? I said controlling them is controlling who? You. They control your idols. They control you. You don't have to try to control everybody. So when you talk about Zuffa, hell, I don't know. You good at puzzles?